I am Feel It.
And I am Fix It. And we talk about life.
And stuff and things.
With the occasional rant.
Which you will have no problem doing.
Hello. Hi. Hi there.
Hello.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whichever it happens to be for you at this time. Hope you're having a good one.
Absolutely. We were just joking around, so my brain was still stuck in the blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, having the blah, blah, blah moment. Yeah.
Well, testing the mics. Blah,
Yes.
blah, blah.
Yes.
Just messing around.
Yes, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, you got to break out the Hotel Transylvania. I don't say blah, blah, blah. I only say blah, blah, blah. When I'm telling people I don't say blah, blah, blah.
And I'm feeling a little blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
So,
a little weird, a little out of sorts.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
It's been a week.
It has.
I've officially broken my record at my current employer. I do my dangest to never work that kind of hours. And
I know.
somehow
It happened.
it happened. I actually had to leave early in order to not violate company policy.
We'll go over the cap.
Yeah, well, they start looking. When you hit 60 hours, they go, 60.1. And you're like, nope, you can't do that. I don't want to do that. If you guys would stop breaking stuff, then I wouldn't have to stick around so long.
It's all good. I know it's been a long, hard week.
It's been it's been like a couple of weeks that have been.
Yes.
A little
And you
more
probably
than-
got a couple more coming. So,
Yeah,
yes. That's okay.
It is what
Blessed
it
to
is.
have a job.
it is what it is.
Blessed to be able to work.
Yes. In a manner of speaking, I guess it's good that they're short-staffed in afternoons, so they don't throw too much of a fit. Because I'm like, well, I'm greedy. I'm not even greedy. I need the money, so I'm going to take advantage of it while it's available.
Absolutely. Not everyone has that ability. So
No,
we're
not at all,
very
thankfully.
fortunate for that.
I'm glad I'm in a position where it's a possibility. Sort of.
Well, medical bills are fun, and life in general. New car battery this week. That was kind of out of nowhere.
Yep. Yeah, we should make a commercial for that store. I love rebates, man.
I got
We
hit.
got another one in the mail today.
I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of,
How much was that one?
it was like $7.
It's still not bad.
Yep. Stockpile those puppies.
Heck yes.
Come in handy.
Helps buy a car battery when the day comes.
Yep.
Hit with multiple medical bills at once. Because, when you have a procedure, they don't just send you one bill. You get like 5. You get the hospital, you get the doctor. Once in a while, you might get the hospital and doctor shoved together, but not very often.
Yep.
And then you get the anesthesiologist, you get radiology, you get everybody involved, right?
Yeah, that way they can all screw you independently, and you don't realize exactly how badly they screwed you, because if it was all on one bill, you could go, hey, wait a second, I paid for that already. It's like, no,
We
let's
really
pay for
shouldn't
you.
start talking about this, should we? Because you just get all kinds of wound up. So anyway, just a weird
It's a
week
racket.
of dealing with things that, they're like everyday life things, but when you shove it all together, sometimes it gets exhausting.
Yeah, weak.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
optimistic.
So,
Weak.
oh my, are we in that frame of mind?
I've been in that frame of mind for more or less the last decade, so...
Oh, I love
yeah,
you anyway.
I know.
So let's move on
Yes.
then, shall we? Before
Yes.
let's save your wound up for
Oh, it's fine.
the topic.
It's fine.
You picked today. And what episode
I did.
are
It's
we
not
on?
so much
What number?
17.
We're on 17 because I messed up last week and didn't say it.
Nah, I'm sure people don't care. It's in the title, so
don't
when
care.
they click
I
on it, they
care.
know.
I care. So we're on 17, and you
Yes.
picked.
Yes. Well, it's not so much topic is a prompt.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Which leads to things.
Which
Sure.
hopefully leads to things.
Okay.
Me and my opinionated mechanic brain, and you and your more counselor feelings oriented brain, and between the two of us, we'd have some fun, I think.
Well, we're gonna do. Yeah. My brain just went places.
Sure.
I've been around too much ADHD lately.
You like
God
every
bless
day, all
my
day?
Beautiful family. I think I know what we're gonna do next week.
Okay.
But that would necessitate.
You should probably write that down.
That would necessitate you going to the theater, which is why I went with a friend yesterday, because nobody in my house was interested in going. I don't have anything to write with, but that's yes, I do. Sorry, it's all behind me.
Yeah, you got a bunch of stuff over there to write with.
I know what we're gonna do next week.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that. I was just gonna make
Awesome.
a plug for something based on what you just said, but it's okay. So anyway, all right.
Awesome.
Back to your prompt.
Okay. Okay. Well, this is so somebody posted it. It's like effectively my outlook on things changed when my counselor said, "You're not attracting toxic people. Toxic people aren't picky. They go to everyone. You letting them stay in your is the issue that needs to get worked on."
And some of these aren't like actual quotes from therapists.
No,
most likely.
No,
it's
most
just,
likely no.
Garbage.
But that's the framing of which they put it.
And it catches your eye.
And it does. And
it's a joke, or
I can honestly say a good counselor probably would say something like that.
Fair enough.
I would. This is going to stereotype a little bit.
There's probably
I
a
would
whole
likely
lot.
say if that was a counselor, it was a guy.
Fair.
Tend to be more blunt.
Fair. I could also tell you that there's a whole lot more to if a therapist actually said that, there'd be a whole lot more to it. And there's a whole lot more to such a prompt as this anyway. But what about it struck you that, what did you want to talk about specifically? Should we repeat it again?
I mean, we can.
You're not attracting toxic people. Toxic people aren't picky. They go to everyone. Letting them stay is the issue that needs to be worked out. So when you sent it to me, it's got like a giant play button over it, and I'm not opening it.
They put
so
music
I couldn't
to it
read the word letting.
And we don't
so
have
I
that
apologize.
kind of license.
I can read.
Yes. No. Well, I got the same thing on mine too. I probably should have done a screenshot.
That's okay. That's okay.
However,
I mean, I've seen versions of this
Sure.
out there.
Well, and one of the things that
you put catchy music to it and somebody else
the reason I saved it was because I said something very similar to a coworker at one point, and it was the most wide-eyed stare I think I've ever gotten from somebody while I was talking to them at work. He just kind of his eyes went huge, and his face kind of went blank.
Got a little deep there for a second.
And it was just, yeah, Well, and you gotta, this dude, roughly my age, I think he was slightly older, but roughly my age, and he's like 6'4", big, tall dude, kind of lanky, drummer, which that says things about people too, but fun guy, interesting guy. We got along great. I enjoyed working with him. But he had a couple of exes. He had a kid with at least one of them. I think he had another kid on the way. And he was just kind of venting about his crazy exes, his crazy girlfriend.
And we're using that term loosely.
No. I'm quoting him. I'm quoting him.
Okay.
I'm not saying they were crazy.
Okay.
I'm saying he was saying they were crazy. And I was like, okay. Well, and to be fair, one of them set his car on fire.
Wow.
So,
all right.
I'm going to say that's not necessarily an exaggeration for a guy. You set my car on fire, I'm probably going to think you're crazy because I've got evidence to back that up.
That's a level.
However, and there was a lot of stuff like that. And it's like, okay, all right, so both of your exes and your baby mama, they're all nuts. They're all crazy. Oh, okay. And gave examples. I'm like, yeah, you're right. That all sounds
A little extreme.
A little. Sounds like some people need some counseling, possibly some medication.
I would agree.
And and he was just kind of like, okay, well, where did you meet all of these ladies? Oh, well, I met her at this bar, and I met her at this bar, and I met her at this club. Like, okay, well, here, let me. Okay, so all of your exes are nuts. That's what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. You do realize the only thing in common of all of those women is you. And he's like, I'm not done. It's like, okay, you keep catching crazy fish. All right. Well, if you're fishing crazy fish pond using crazy fish bait and a crazy fish lure and a crazy fish tackle, and you keep catching crazy fish, that's on you. All you had to do was change any one of those things and your outcome would have been different. And he just, like I said, he's this gigantic guy, towers over me, just standing there, his jaw open, his eyes wide, going, like, I thought this was kind of obvious. So, well, yeah, but it was a lot of fun. It's like,
A lot of fun.
Yeah, okay, so crazy can be fun. But crazy can also set your car on fire.
And cost you for the rest of your life. Yeah, I mean, there's that.
Like,
at least a solid 18 years.
Yeah, well, and that was kind of, and that kind of same kind of thing. It's like, you know, yeah, people are going to be around you. You know, good people, toxic people, healthy people. They're going to be around you. The ones that stick around are the ones that you give them. Well, let me switch up the analogy to make it a little more comprehensible, because my brain is going all over. It's kind of like a garden. If you throw a bunch of I don't know what kind of seeds out into your yard, the stuff that grows is the stuff that you feed. Like roses, like, as I recall, I'm not a gardener, but roses like slightly more acidic pH, if I remember correctly. But other things don't. If you make it good for roses, it's bad for something else. What you make your soil good for is what's going to grow best there and is going to stick around. So if you're making your life attractive to toxic people and not repulsive to toxic people, they're going to stick around. And they're going to spread their toxicity and poison your life. If you let them.
What do you think isn't attractive?
To
toxic people.
To toxic people? Calling them on their crap? Letting an individual know that all of his crazy girlfriends, that's sort of on him too.
Well, does that make him toxic?
That behavior was toxic. It was toxic for him. It was toxic for his son. In all honesty, it was toxic for the girls that he was dating at the time. You know, all three of
just perpetuating it.
Yeah, exactly. You're continuing it. You're giving it an opportunity to get worse. Now, I'm going to generalize. In the same way that evil people don't think they're evil, toxic people don't think they're toxic.
Fair enough.
And until it's pointed out in a way that matters to them and resonates with them, they're never going to do anything about it. So if you make your life unaccessible to those kinds of people, that might be the only way that they figure out. It's like, well, why don't you like me? Well,
it's a boundaries thing.
It is.
But it's also a self-respect thing for, like, the person you said that to.
Yeah.
He clearly has his own
issues. He does. I hope he's worked through a lot of it. I haven't worked with him in a long time. I tried reaching out to him, but he changed numbers and I don't have it and haven't been able to locate him. Which, like I said, I really like the guy. I would have liked hanging out with him. He was a funny guy, very eclectic taste in music. It was fun talking to him. But he had some interpersonal issues and some obvious self-worth issues and some unhealthy attractions that need to be dealt with.
It sounds like it.
Yes.
Yes.
However, it was, I don't know, it's that little thing that was the first, when I read that, he was the first guy I thought of in that conversation that we had.
Well, it sounds like it was pretty blunt conversation.
Well, again, guys talking to guys, and I've told people, like, okay, if you want, I will, if you want somebody to vent to, you just tell me I just need to vent. And I am perfect. Okay, vent away. Have at it. If you want my 2 cents, I'll give you my 2 cents. And I asked him, it's like, you want to know what I think? Yeah, tell me what you, oh, okay. And I gave it to him. And he'd never thought about it like that before.
Which you needed somebody to prompt him to think about it
sometimes
differently.
That's exactly what you need.
Toxicity, of course, can come in all shapes and forms.
Oh, certainly.
And most people don't realize they are, or that they are seeking it. Most.
I'm gonna,
like this gentleman,
yes.
this buddy,
Yeah.
from it's been a minute.
Yes.
From a while ago.
Yes.
Younger.
Going on a decade at this point.
Say younger. Which unfortunately you just don't tend to have a whole lot of sense of responsibility sometimes, and like you saying, it was fun.
Sure.
It was a lifestyle choice. More than anything, that's a lifestyle choice.
Oh, yes.
That turns into something more horrid and then affects other human lives, like the children involved. And now, hopefully, he's gotten past those things. But
I hope he's grown. I hope he's in a healthier place. Yeah.
Most people just don't know any better. They don't even know they don't know how to recognize it, let alone how to stop it.
Yeah. Well, and the world didn't know about bacteria until somebody learned about bacteria. And
yeah,
it's like, you see, there's got to be that.
It.
Yeah. But once you see it, it never goes. Once you're aware, if you don't do anything about it, now it's on you. And I think that was the first time that anybody actually really pointed it out. And I think one of the things that was processing in his head was, okay, now what am I going to do about it? Like, yeah, actually, yeah, that all makes sense. Now what? Like, okay, well, there you go.
That's the therapeutic side of it.
That's part of it. Yep.
But there's, like, for instance, and we've talked different facets of all of it on and off, but family.
Oh, yeah.
We have family situations,
Many.
both of us on both of our sides,
yes.
that I wouldn't have called toxic once upon a time. It took time and circumstance and really being willing to accept it for what it was. Because when someone is in your life, no matter how close they are to you in that relationship, and you can really care about somebody, to constantly be berated and told that you are never going to be good enough, you should basically just lay down and die, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Sure.
That's not okay.
No. Well, see, a lot of times it's subtle,
Sure. I mean, this was pretty blatant.
Well, no, but I mean,
it just ramped up over the years.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
As her issues got worse and her self-perception got worse, I was too wrapped up in what I was having to go through and deal with to see that for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I see it so much clearer now. But it does sadden me that relationship will never be the same.
No. And
to really hear that the mentality is worse, actually, than it ever was before. But I understand what you're saying. Some people, it is subtle.
Well, and not all toxicity sets fire to your car.
No.
There's those backhanded compliments or snide
comments.
remarks.
Not even compliments. Comments.
Yeah. Well,
was that a slip?
No, not necessarily. I'm trying to think of an example. I'm drawing a blank. There was one floating around in there, but I mean, just saying something that the words are complimentary.
But it's completely disingenuous.
Yes, but completely disingenuous, or it carries with it the a derogatory aspect to it.
Sure, there's hollow people.
Sure.
Right? There's people that just like don't know any better, and then off the cuff will like agree to something or provide a compliment to something that they don't really want anything to do with, or they don't really think positively about, or whatever. There's just kind of that reaction.
Sure. Yeah.
But from gathering what you're saying correctly, it's more. You're talking about somebody that's almost like intentional.
Oh yeah, yes.
It's not just a habitual behavior to placate somebody and to be polite and not be offensive. It's actually like, I guess I see what you're saying now with the individual I was considering in my mind.
Sure.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay.
And it's always skewed to kind of make the other person feel better.
Yeah, almost always.
It doesn't sound. We're not exactly being like very direct on this one, but
well, no, we don't want to get
toxicity.
We don't want to be.
There's a definition, like so many things we talk about. There's I don't know. It's not even that it's cultural. It's underrated or inflated, depending on what you're talking about.
Sure. And there's a lot of times people take things, the actual toxic aspect of the interaction is how a person receives it, not who was giving it or how they gave it.
Well, this prompt provides zero context. So
for
that's why we're kind of flying on the idea of toxicity. Like, what is that? How does that look?
Well, and there's many different versions of toxicity, too. I mean...
I mentioned that.
Well, I was like, sometimes it's not in the toxic aspect isn't in what was given, but what was received. Now, if somebody is so inclined, I guess, they find offense where there's no offense. They find insult where there's no insult.
Highly sensitive.
Well, I mean, they're looking for a reason to be hurt or offended or insulted.
I was going to go there. Was basically, and if there isn't, then they create it.
Sure. Well, I mean, yeah, I love apple pie. I'm a big fan of Dutch apple pie specifically. With a caramel drizzle, just really kicks it over to like stupid. I'm like... Get out of the way. This pie is mine. You can have everything else. Okay. Here's a piece of crust. Get on with your day. Okay. I'm not that bad, but if given the option, yeah, that pie's mine. And if somebody makes conversationally, somebody makes, if there's a piece of pie, like restaurant, I'm not talking about somebody made me a pie. I would never say this if somebody made me a pie, but if I went to a bakery and I bought a slice of pie and it was like a basket weave, and I said, yeah, this is awesome. I kind of prefer Dutch apple with a caramel drizzle. And the waitress takes that as an insult. There's no insult there. They take that personally. Their toxic behavior is internalizing things that aren't internal and turning things that aren't a insult or meant to be offensive and taking it offensive. Like, first of all, you didn't even make the pie. I know where they made that pie. It used to be called Chef Pierre. It's not anymore. My dad retired from there. I know exactly the building that pie was made at. You didn't make it. I'm not insulting them either. I just, you're looking for offense. That is just as toxic as somebody actually meaning offense, except you're poisoning yourself. Some toxicity is, I'm trying to bring you down. And others is, I'm looking for things to bring me down, even if I have to create them.
And when you talk toxic, you're talking like...
in a lot of ways, harmful, emotionally or mentally harmful.
Drastically unhealthy.
Yeah, unhealthy.
For the person, for everybody around them.
Often, yes. And both kinds, you don't want those kinds of people around you. Because if someone is toxic to you, they're trying to poison your life. And if they try and draw toxin out of things that aren't toxic, they're trying to suck the life out of you for themselves. And both is massively unhealthy. Now, I can be blunt. I go out of my way to not be blunt unless somebody asks me to be. As we had a friend here in some emotional distress, and he asked the question of me, was this my fault? And I looked at him, and he was looking for an honest answer. And I told him, yep, at least in part, yes. This situation is, in part, your fault. And in that moment, that was the most loving thing I could do for him in that moment.
Honesty.
It was... it's easy to tell somebody, no, it wasn't you. She's just crazy. That's an easy thing to do, but it's not the truth. Not giving any excuses. Like the list of stuff that my thing. There's always a reason. It's not an excuse.
Yes.
You gave her reasons. Can't argue that. And that kind of hit him. But that also gives him the opportunity to do something about it in the future.
That's a choice.
I should probably write this one down. It needs to go on the list. Something.
Okay.
Well, no, something to the effect of, I'll bring this back to toxic people in a second. But if everything is just happening to you and none of it's your fault, then you can't do anything about it. You are just a victim of circumstance being blown around in the wind. Like a feather in a hurricane. You're just flying everywhere. And that is almost never the truth. It might be 99% the world and 1% you, but you still control that 1%, and that 1% can make a huge difference. And it's almost never 99% the world.
Yeah.
But even if it was, you can change your 1%. And if I was being nice and said, no, it wasn't you, then he's never going to seek out that 1% and grow. Still might not, but he doesn't have the excuse of not saying he didn't know. And that's not toxic.
No.
But if I just got in his face, yeah, it was you. That was stupid. What the heck you were thinking?
Well, he was looking for that.
But unsolicited.
Oh, sure.
If I was just in his face, or I said it in a different manner from which I did, it would have just been hurtful. But he was looking for an answer. So sometimes it's in the delivery. There's an adage, that I'm trying to remember which way it goes, but it's like the poison is in the dosage. Because like migraine headaches, they're using botulism to treat migraines. I call it Botox, but it's botulism. One of the most toxic bacteria on the planet.
I have recently had a
yes.
dose. Well, several.
Exactly.
I
But it's in the
31 shots. I had the max for the migraine protocol.
Yeah, but it's in the dosage.
Yes. As she was explaining to me,
yes.
the fraction that is actually...
Oh, yeah, it's minuscule.
Yes.
Because it is massively toxic. And in the way that it works for, people's wrinkles and creases and migraines is the effect the toxicity has can be utilized. And it's all about how much and where and when. And I don't even say, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to speak in generalities, and I'm going to, and about me personally. I don't think there's anybody that isn't at least a little bit toxic. We have toxic tendencies.
Absolutely.
And
now, whether that's self-perceived or someone else thinks it of you.
Sure. Well, and
I have been... I've had conversations with individuals where I would say there was some that were honest and loving in that it's hard to watch me suffer.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
And they know I have my hard days and
yes.
And just genuine conversations with people. And I have a few left in my life that have been in my life this whole time that know they've watched this all go down with me. And then there's the people that you think they probably couldn't deal with what little they knew.
Yes.
And bailed out.
Yep. In
their own way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not toxicity.
No.
There's the times where I have blamed myself thinking that I am just a terrible, awful virus, basically.
Sure.
You know, like I'm just contagious and all the hurt and pain is contagious.
Yeah. And that's an easy place to get to.
What the truth is, it's not toxicity. It's someone else's inability to manage their feelings.
Sure. Well, and that goes back to setting boundaries. Sometimes that boundary it's like emotionally, I can't deal with this situation and I need to separate from it.
And that's okay, as long as it's an actual adult conversation.
And that is
it doesn't turn out to be some...
and again...
something else.
That comes down to...
I don't want to take that other places, but...
No. And again, that comes down to the dosage. The right amount at the right time can be healing.
Versus nothing or something cruel.
Yes.
Sometimes nothing can be cruel, but...
Yes. Sometimes it can be the most cruel. Because then you're just left with an open hole and you don't know what the heck happened. Life gets tough for everybody. And sometimes you just hit your limit. And everybody, I think, can relate to that. But if you need to get out, the healthiest thing you can do is tell the people involved. It's like, yeah, I can't hang. This is so far much more than I can handle. I need out. And I think we can all relate to that. I might get hurt. It's like, hey, you were my trench buddy. It's like we were fighting this together.
Semper Fi. Yeah, well,
some
people don't actually know what that entails.
No.
And some people can't actually, even if they say they can deal, some people can't.
Yeah, you don't know until you're there.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as there's a level of honesty about it. And when you can be honest, this individual I was speaking of earlier, there is an honesty that can be had there. There is no conversation.
No.
Because no matter what, I am wrong. Or I need to think differently.
And that in and of itself.
No matter what.
That is massively, and that mindset on their part is massively toxic for everybody around them.
It is her opinion and her opinion only.
Yeah. And see, and I'm, I've said it and I'll continue to say it. I am a massively opinionated guy. But at the same time, I know what my opinions are and why they are what they are. I can articulate them. I can discuss them. And if you give me information or a new viewpoint and perspective on a topic that I hadn't considered before, I'm going to take that new information and I'm going to figure something out. You can convince me. I can be convinced. I can be shown and taught and learn to be so steadfast in your opinions that it doesn't matter what evidence you put in their lab. that you're still wrong and they're right. It's like that is like,
just my opinion. I'm allowed to have one.
yes. Well, there's that too.
I'm allowed to have one.
Yes,
and
it's like here's a mountain of evidence and experience that contradicts what you're saying, but you're still right. Yeah, I'm sorry. No, that again, that is a very toxic. That is going to poison the people around them.
It's either a level of emotional immaturity that you choose to sit. There's a point where you're choosing to sit in it. Or control. Like you have to control things so much that you're going to set a car on fire.
Well, there's that.
And there's some emotional immaturity in there too.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. Like
yes.
there are factors of that
Certainly.
that I could certainly get into, but that's the overall umbrella that people see, the toxicity that people see and experience, like myself, is you are never going to be allowed to have an opinion that isn't going to be argued, rejected, berated. And I'm talking about everything.
Yes.
Every subject matter you could imagine.
Oh, I recall.
And where I drew the line was my life.
Yes.
I couldn't hear anymore. I wasn't at a stage where I could hear that anymore. I needed the positivity. Yes. I needed to have people around me that were going to encourage me, be honest and real, but encourage me.
Yes.
Not judge.
Didn't need another anchor.
My health, my finances, my faith, my family, my marriage, my parenting. I mean, everything. And then when it came down to even my trying to like work out and have health goals, that was it right there, where I had a few doctors that were all for it, and you just need to grab a hold of this and don't let go, and
you keep moving. Yeah.
I needed more of that,
yeah.
But I didn't realize now fast forward a few years.
Yes. Well,
that was toxicity
because of a lot of things in life. We had a long, protracted separation. And then it was, oh my gosh, how was it always like this, or did it suddenly get worse?
Some epiphany moments.
Yes, and it gradually got worse, and then through the separation, that gradual slope, since we weren't on the slope with them at the same time, they were at a whole new level when we reconnected.
But my boundaries are
yes
incredibly different. I am incredibly different.
Well,
I am not who I was.
No. And yeah.
My self-confidence, I might have my self-esteem things. You know this.
Who doesn't?
But my self-confidence, my outlook on everything. And it isn't about even judging her for where she is. It's just saying I don't want to be there anymore.
No.
And when I grew past that and through it and past it,
yes,
I realized just how rough it was.
Yeah. Yes. So, and at one point, I really enjoyed butting heads. It was kind of entertaining.
She can make it fun.
She could.
I didn't realize, too, the energy drain. Now, that's another thing with toxicity.
This is true.
The energy drain
that
you have around somebody, you gotta recognize that.
Oh, yeah.
If you have that around somebody, that's a huge red flag.
Like I said,
you should probably pay attention to why you're exhausted.
It emotionally and mentally is toxic. It's sucking the life out of you.
Yes.
Now, whether it's giving or the way that they're taking, it's still emotionally and mentally just sucks the life out of you.
And mainly because of the arguing. It was why do we have to argue and why do I have to defend every aspect of my life?
In that case, it was about the arguing, but it could be.
For me, I realized it was.
No, I mean, in that case specifically, that individual was always a fight.
Oh, yeah.
About everything that didn't need to be a fight.
Like, what is going on?
But with other people, it's, I mean, I almost said need. It's not need. People needing something isn't toxic. It's the constant drain of you for something. Not necessarily a need, it's like, because in reality, you need water, sleep, food, shelter. And that's about it. Everything else might be an emotional need, but it's not a physical need. So, I'm not talking, it's like somebody needs food, you feed them. If somebody needs clothes, you clothe them. Somebody needs water, they need heat, they need sleep. You do your best. I'm talking about they just take and take and take. And the gratitude isn't, it's like...
That's not a factor.
It's
no
not
gratitude.
It's you give to them and they feel entitled to your access, to your emotional energy, to your
There's another keyword.
Mental energy, your resources, your time, whatever it happens to be. Like, and they treat you like you're doing them a favor by giving up yourself to them. That's what I mean by, they're always needy. Like, and kids are needy. They actually have need of the things that you provide. That's not toxic. But we're talking about the other stuff. The other... I mean, your kids needing stuff. Need in quotes. Need.
Okay.
I think that's the... I think that might be, in some cases, the start of some of that behavior.
Absolutely.
Most definitely.
It's
like
stuck.
Either they don't get the things they actually need, and so they become greedy for it, and that becomes poisonous to them, or they never taught the value, and so they don't treat it like it's valuable, or they never show any gratitude. They treat life, or they're treated like life owed it to them, and they never learn gratitude for the access and things that they get. No. Sorry, that's a bit of a mental rabbit trail.
I know
I like to
follows a little bit, though. I mean, you're tracking right.
Yeah.
And from a psychological standpoint, there's a lot to that, where who we become. I mean, it does kind of start in the habits of childhood, in the modeling,
most time,
in the environment,
sure, and
that does create then like self-perception and the concepts that you move forward with. It's a foundation for it. Not to say that people don't change through time.
Sure.
Just as we've been talking,
yes.
that my outlook changed. It took circumstance to be able to provide that timing. Where I grew, I got better. I am going to own that, right? I did change in that way. But I'd like to think it was for the better. How I was changing was for the better. And that's not like a haughty moment that I'm trying to have there, but it.
Well,
when you kind of look over and you're like, okay, this is what is wrong. And I'm not talking about like judging somebody. I'm talking about like assessing.
Yes.
Where you assess what it was about that relationship and that person that is effective, in what was making me exhausted. What were the conversations like? The red flags of like, when was I starting to get tired? When was I starting to get angry? Why did I never feel like I could actually speak my mind and have an opinion? Because it was constantly torn down. Mm-hmm. And even if I did, not to say that there weren't great times and we didn't agree on some things, that's not what it was.
No, well, just like everything else.
It was so much.
Well, a toxic person is not always toxic. They could just be toxic that 1% of the time. And if that's a lot, I mean,
That's more than 1% with this person.
Yes, but I mean, but that if that 1% of the time is really toxic, then it's too much. With most people, like I said, I would say that most people, we all have those moments of anger and snippiness and
we all have it.
Emotionally draining.
Where I feel tired.
We all have our moments, and in small doses, those are kind of they're toxic moments, not toxic behavior.
There's a difference. You're absolutely right.
Where
you live.
Yeah,
like literally, we're like, you may as well just like plant there.
What's the persistent, state? If you're always 1% toxic, you're toxic.
Hey, it just came to my mind. You plant there and then you grow a garden. Grow a garden of your toxicity.
Sure. It's like the poisonous plant garden. There actually is one of those.
What?
Yes. Where you're not allowed to touch any of the plants because it could kill you. Yes. I think it's referred to as the death garden. Yeah. It's one of those, I would kind of like to see it just because.
Well, we're just going to have to find where it is.
Yeah,
let's do that.
It's like, I find that fascinating. The fact that you put them all in one place, I'm like,
why?
But to study them. I get that.
So, but come back around. Okay. So, yes, but that's like a little representation of what we're just talking about for metaphorical.
Yes.
Where you plant all the toxic things in one place. Now, if a lot of those things happen to be planted in one person, that's going to be rough.
Well, and I think we all get, keeping with the metaphor, all of that stuff gets planted in your yard. All of it. And someone's toxic behavior kind of walks across your lawn, they're dropping seeds. Now, whether or not you let them grow or encourage their growth,
weed killer,
or once they pop up, I think in a lot of ways, long-term growth is just weeding your garden. The stuff is there, whether you want it to be there or not. It's there, and actual growth is not just cutting the top of it off. It's every now and again, you got to dig down, get to the root, and eliminate it. And I think that's not just toxicity, but I mean a lot of maladaptive behaviors.
Yes, that would be the psychoeducational term.
You can deal with, and I think it's very important to deal with the behavior itself. That's cutting the top off the plant.
When I have walked somebody through their behaviors that are concerning, that they're concerned about, whether in the course of, or they come in with it, whatever, but that's exactly it right there. Like, you do talk with them about how those could be different, or how those behaviors might be causing XYZ.
Yes.
And I think it's a discussion where you got to try to help lead them to the understanding and acknowledgement of the how and why, because they're not just going to cut it off.
Well, and I think that falls under the category of traditional behaviorist psychological theory. Is we don't care about the root, we just care about the behavior.
Oh my goodness, how did this just happen? Anyway.
I've said
exactly what I said I didn't want to do. Okay.
Yeah, no, you don't have to, because I'm not licensed. I don't have the same legalities to worry about. They can't pull my license. I don't have one. But it's like, I am not uneducated.
You are not.
I studied this stuff for fun in high school. Anyway, and I think there's some merit to that. Break the habit, break the cycle. But I think that's the difference between cognitive behavioral therapy. It's like, yes, we're going to deal with, this is the behavior that we want to deal with. We want you to understand where it came from. And that's where you dig down and find the roots.
Not everybody has that kind of energy.
No, and it takes energy, and you're going to have to deal with something you don't want to deal with.
There is a lot out there now that actually advocates for not digging down in traumatic, specifically like with traumatic instances, traumatic events. It can be harmful in and of itself.
Sure.
More harming to relive
Well, it's kind of like pulling a knife out.
Right?
It's like you do
Gotta
as much.
watch if it slices the artery.
It's like, well, the knife does. If somebody gets stabbed, the knife does damage going in, and removing it can do just as much damage coming back out. So you're damaged twice, and the knife can act like a cork. So you're not bleeding out. You're in pain, but you're not bleeding out. Well, you pull it out, now you could be bleeding out, and you cut yourself even more. I get that. And I'm not necessarily saying in all cases, because I can't. I'm not a therapist. That's not my thing. But to recognize and understand where it came from, to know the root of the problem. It's like the behavior is a symptom. In most cases, the behavior is not the problem. The behavior is a symptom of the actual problem. And you might not even be aware of the actual problem. Some of them happen. Most people aren't. Well, and there's the phrase, as the twig is bent, so grows the tree. There are traumatic experiences that happen to people before they're cognitively capable of actually fully forming memories. A lot of phobias come that way. I've heard of people who were 18 months old and were attacked by a dog. And the rest of their life, they're terrified of dogs. They have no memory of the trauma. No conscious memory of the actual trauma. But the effect is still there. And sometimes you need to know where they come from. I'm not saying you need to dig down into all of the freaking details in all cases. I do think in many ways, if the trauma still hurts, to look back at it, you haven't healed from it yet.
Fair.
Because a truly, I move it to physical injuries, if like my back. It's like my lower back. Years of jumping up and down on machines, climbing things, concrete floors in factories, and all that fun stuff. My lower back, kind of grumpy. If it was healed and actually dealt with, but it still hurt, then it's not actually healed. It might be better, but it's not healed. Not saying it can always be healed. Going back to, more psychologically speaking, some pain is just going to be there. But if it's reliving something that's already happened, that your past, that deep in your past, if it can still lay you out to the point where you qualify it as being traumatic, remembering it, you really haven't dealt with it yet. It's still controlling your life. And you need to find a way of dealing with that.
And that can lead to toxic behaviors.
Yes, it can.
Does.
I'm not even going to, the thing is, I'm not saying toxic people are intentionally toxic. Like I said earlier, it's like nobody...
There's a reason why she set the car on fire.
There's a reason she set
There's
the car on fire.
There's a reason she had the mentality.
She had her reasons.
To set the car on fire.
Yes, she had her reasons. As I recall, he went out with his friends and had some beers.
Well, we don't need to go into that level of it. I meant her mentality, not the precipitating event.
No villain thinks they're the bad guy.
I don't know. For as angry as I have ever been, I don't know if I would have done something like that. I've also heard of people setting furniture on fire. So okay. Anyway,
yes.
let's come off of that for a second.
But
so
it's like I'm not saying that these people are even bad people.
It is a maladaptive, let's say that term, right? The maladaptive coping mechanism. We all have them. We just watched the documentary about Chris Farley. Amazing comedian, right?
He was hysterical.
Significant addiction issues. I am not an
Massive.
addiction specialist, but I've got the generalities. I know the gist.
Well, I think it's very well documented.
Food, drugs,
sex, alcohol. Yeah.
I mean, those are it, right? Those are the things. Now gambling, not in his case, but like, there are the basics, the easy things to get to.
Yes.
It starts off small, gets larger.
Almost always.
Whether it's money or propensity or whatever you're trying to numb,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it starts somewhere.
Yes.
It always starts with something. And you think you can control it, and then you can't. Such as with any real toxic behavior. You think you can control it, or you're not even aware of it. But then it consumes you, it consumes your life. And again, you might not even realize that it has made you the kind of person that you can't even be in a relationship of any kind because you are entrenched in that. It's a mindset, it's behaviors, it's the words out of your mouth, it's the actions you make.
Sure.
It's every choice you make.
And I'd be willing to bet in most cases, most addicts, they're aware. I mean, they know a lot of the, like drug addicts, they know their behavior is illegal. They know it's not right.
Sure.
Most alcoholics know that there's a point where this isn't what's good for them.
Cheap, simple.
For the most part, I think that's the downfall of a lot of maladaptive behaviors in many retrospects, is they're aware of the effect, but they don't realize they're the cause. I think in a lot of cases. Until it's pointed out to them, and hopefully. But, like, people with toxic behaviors, it's like, well, okay, we got in a fight and they broke up with me, or they left, or this person doesn't call anymore, this person doesn't come around anymore, it's like I'm not invited to functions anymore. They don't realize that they were the catalyst that brought that behavior around. Most drug addicts and alcoholics, they know why they're separated from those people. They understand that. They don't like it, But in a lot of cases, it's the drugs. You know it's the drugs. You always knew it was the drugs, or the alcohol, or the gambling. There's a reason why they hide that stuff from people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not to say that you can hide it all day long, but doesn't mean it doesn't change who you are.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean that you don't have massively long-lasting effects on other people.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned a friend of mine that died not that long ago. Still kind of... I have his picture, and every time
Almost a year ago.
Yeah, I have his picture sitting out there, and every time I walk by, I go, dang it. Because he was just one of those guys, He effectively drank himself to death. He was a hardcore alcoholic. And at the same time, in the entire time I had known him, which is years, I went to school with his younger brother. He taught archery when I was in the first grade. I worked with him for years. He's one of the guys that stood up in my wedding. And he was the reason that a skinny, hyperactive ADD kid was given a shot to do something more than just put parts in a box.
He wasn't that much older than you.
No, he was just a few years older than me.
Yeah.
But he was in an elevated position when I started there. Anyway, all of that being said, I saw him drink twice. In the entire time I knew him. Twice. And of those 2 times, he was drunk the one time at his buddy's bachelor party. And that was it. The man literally drank himself to death. He knew. That's why he hid it from the people who he knew cared about him.
Oh, sure. Until he couldn't hide it anymore.
The people with maladaptive behaviors, emotional toxicity being one of them, I think they don't recognize what it is, so they don't hide it. That's just who they are. Until somebody calls them on it.
See, and then it becomes something
And then,
like myself trying to call out that individual I was speaking of.
Sure.
And that didn't go well. Right?
No.
I was exiled for that because Lord forbid you actually stand up for yourself or question or show concern, which was actually what had happened.
Yes. Well, when you ask somebody, it's like, hey, if you see me going down a bad path, tell me. Okay.
Yeah, I tried that.
So you lied. Okay, got it. All right. You don't actually want to know. Got it. Okay.
But of course, no one wants to be called out when they're entrenched in the middle of any of that, no matter how it's manifesting.
Nope. That's also part of the problem being one of the smartest people in the room.
Yikes.
Let's be honest. She's brilliant. She was brilliant.
Oh. Sorry. I took that differently.
No, it's like, you can't tell me anything. I'm smarter than you.
I'm not saying...
No, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm smarter than you.
Intellect was certainly not part of it. And she still is.
But that's
yes, that's how she would play that off.
See, but yeah.
She knew everything about everything.
Yep. No, it's like, I know more than you.
About everything.
You can't tell me. It's like, no, you're not right because I'm smarter than you. How could you know that and I don't know that? See, that is the difference between intelligence and wisdom. Intelligence knows. Wisdom understands. For everything that I know, there's a lot more that I don't. The philosophical beginning of wisdom is the question, I don't know. And if you can't ask that, it's like the only way you become wise is by asking a question. And the only way you're going to ask a question is if you admit that you don't know the answer already.
Yes, true.
And which is why I kind of like discussions like this, because okay, intellectually, I know a lot. Personally, I have a lot of freaking opinions. I've read a bunch.
You do
I've interacted with. I really need to start reading again. I don't read much anymore. Anyway,
I know. Trying to get back to that for personal.
Yes, but I'll also be the first person to tell you. I might not know that. I could have read bad information. may have internalized bad information. My personal experiences may be the outlier. So please tell me more. So I like conversations like this because, okay, it's like I know what I've read. I know what I've experienced. You're educated in this topic specifically. Well, the overarching topic specifically, and the this narrow focus of that range, you've spent time studying as well. So it's kind of nice to have conversations. It's like, okay, all right, am I still on the right? Is my brain still pointed in the right direction? It's like I can be off a little bit and need a course correction. I don't want to be way off. And I'm not getting that impression. Anyway. That's where I'm at.
You're not way off.
No.
Not most of the time. You just have opinions. You are allowed to have opinions.
I do.
That's the premise of all this.
And again, for all those out there that might be listening, that I hope for listening, you got another opinion, we have an email address. It's in our bio. Please use it. Contact us. Let us know what you think. Give us your 2 cents. I keep checking, and there's still nothing. So stop it.
Stop it. Just pay a little tribute there.
Pay a little tribute to the
Bob Newhart.
Gone and hopefully never forgotten.
Yes.
Bob Newhart.
Late Bob Newhart.
Yep.
Yes. Stop it.
Stop it.
I suggest you look that video up.
Look up Bob. Yeah, Bob Newhart.
Stop it. I would never be able to speak that way.
No.
Ever.
I could.
It's quite entertaining.
It is extremely entertaining. It was, yeah. He was a funny man. Anyway.
I appreciate that you had a lot of thoughts, and I know this can go a lot of different directions, but I think we did well. Kind of processing through some basics. If you got any red flag people in your life, I encourage you to take a glance at why you feel exhausted or
Yes.
dread having to speak to someone or be in their presence or whatever. If you can't quite put your finger on it.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to have a conversation with that individual and pay attention.
Absolutely.
A person that cares, a person that a healthy person, or
Healthy relationship.
you know what? Yeah, I'll even say a healthy person. A healthy person isn't never sick. A healthy person is one that can recover from being sick.
All right.
So a mentally healthy person isn't a person that doesn't have any mental issues, psychological issues.
Yes.
A healthy mentality is one that when they learn about maladaption, they strive to be better. Sometimes that needs outside help. But have a conversation with that person. If they don't allow you to remove the poison from your life or deny its existence, now you need to start talking boundaries.
Yes.
Because as an individual, your job is to not let yourself get poisoned. And at the same time, do your best to not poison anybody else.
Fair enough. Yes.
And
excellent summation.
And I will also say, look in a mirror. Because often the thing we hate most in others is the thing we despise most in ourselves.
We're at the end, so we're
Yes.
not trying to open up anything else.
No, just put that out there. Maybe we'll talk about that in the
Oh,
future.
holy cow.
Who knows?
Sure.
Who knows?
Do a little mirror exercise while we do an episode.
Well, I meant theologically speaking, look in a mirror.
No, I mean, there's therapy techniques where you literally look in a mirror. Anyway, okay. So I do have an idea for next week, and we'll see how that plays out.
Sure. Sounds good.
We'll see if that'll work.
Awesome.
We'll discuss.
Bonus.
Okay. So.
All right. I'm Fix It.
I'm Feel It.
We hope you join us in the future.
Until next week.
You have a great one.